Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker, again, thank you. General Petraeus, you have stated that Iraq is now the central front on the war on terror. Is that a correct quote?
That is correct, sir.
Why is that?
It is based on my conversations with the director of CIA and Lieutenant General McChrystal, the Joint Special Operations Command commander, who have assessed that it is the central front for al-Qaeda, and they have based that on communications and other things. It is possible that the loss of momentum to some degree in Iraq by al-Qaeda may be shifting that. We've actually been looking at that to see if there are indicators of a reduction in support for al-Qaeda Iraq or not, and there is not something conclusive yet, but it is certainly something that we are looking at very hard.
Ambassador Crocker, in my statement I mentioned, and I'm sure you heard the Iranian president stated, soon we will see a huge power vacuum in the region. Of course, we're prepared to fill the gap. Do you hear that comment?
I did hear that comment, yes, sir.
And your assumption and your conclusion from that?
Well, at least the president of Iran has one virtue of being honest, because that is already, I think, very apparent to those of us in Iraq as Iran's intention.
General Petraeus, it's astonishing the number of things that people come up with, but one of the latest statements is that the surge had nothing to do with Anbar province and the rather stunning success we've had there. How do you respond to that?
Well, the success in Anbar province correctly is a political success, but it is a political success that has been enabled very much by our forces, who have been enabled by having additional forces in Anbar province. The tribes indeed stood up, started outside Ramadi last October or so. Colonel McFarland of the Army, with some great Marine forces and Army forces in Ramadi, made the decision to back him. That began to build some momentum, got some Iraqis trained, and all of a sudden by mid-March, they felt that they could go ahead and launch a clearing operation.
Could it have happened without the surge?
It would not have happened as quickly without the surge, and I don't know whether we could have capitalized on it the way that we have without the surge.
Ambassador Crocker, there's now a lot of conversation about a, quote, soft partition of Iraq, and that Baghdad is already partitioned and the Kurds are doing things locally, and others. What is your response to a proposal for a, quote, soft partition of Iraq?
Iraqis have got to figure out what their state will look like in the future. One of the promising indicators we're seeing right now is, in fact, a discussion among all Iraqis, including Sunnis, about a decentralized federal system. These will be their choices to make. That kind of outcome, which is provided for in the Constitution, is not soft partition. It's not partition of any form. Partition, in my view, is not a viable outcome for the situation in Iraq. Baghdad, in spite of all of the violence it has seen and all of the population displacements, remains a very mixed city, Sunnis and Shia together. Any notion that that city of over 5 million people can be neatly divided up or painlessly cleansed of a huge number of people it's just incorrect.
Some argue that ethnically cleansing has already taken place.
There clearly has been substantial displacement of mainly of Sunnis, but also of Shia. And you know, to be candid, there is still some of that going on, as the New York Times article suggests. That is going to be one of the challenges ahead for the Iraqis and for us in support of them.
So why not let it just continue?
Because this is occurring in its current form, pushed by militias and death squads at a tremendous human cost. We've brought that down. The surge has brought that down, but it hasn't ended it. To simply say this is a good thing would be, I think, in both practical and moral terms, roughly equivalent to some of the ethnic cleansing we saw in the Balkans.
General Petraeus, we agree that the police or the national police have been a colossal failure. What are we going to do about it? And how many people are we talking about? And in the context of the overall national police force as it is?
Senator, there's no question but that certain national police elements were hijacked by sectarian interests, particularly during 2006, and became part of the problem instead of part of the solution. The Ministry of Interior has recognized that. This minister has taken steps, and we have supported those steps, needless to say, but it includes replacement of the overall National Police Commander, both division commanders, all 9 of the brigade commanders, and 17 of 27 battalion commanders. In addition, there has been a retraining process for them of a month-long course where they're pulled out of the line literally and sent to a location southeast of Baghdad for retraining. With some of the units, this has appeared to work. There are some others about which we still have continuing concerns. I believe that Prime Minister Maliki himself has gotten much greater concern about militia activity in general, and has publicly said now that the militias must be dissolved over time. I am going to bring in some individuals to take a look at this together with the Ministry of Interior, in fact, shortly after I get back.
There's an argument that the success in Anbar province, because it's strictly Sunni, cannot be replicated throughout Iraq.
Sir, it can't be replicated exactly, except, of course, in locations that are exactly Sunni Arab. Now, actually, there are neighborhoods in Baghdad where this has been replicated in other areas, including Abu Ghraib. Some well over 1,500 men have been put on hiring orders by the Ministry of Interior. They're almost all Sunni Arab, I assume, and some are former insurgents, Jaish al-Islami. And the Iraqi government knows this. They did it with their eyes wide open because they saw that it would be better to have these individuals fighting al-Qaeda instead of being part of al-Qaeda.
This can be and is being replicated throughout Iraq?
It can be replicated in a number of different locations where it's needed to be replicated. The truth is, in some areas, you have sufficient security forces now to combat, and it's not just al-Qaeda, it's also, of course, militia extremists. But if you look at the province of Dhikar, for example, one of the 4 provinces for which the British are responsible, in that province there's a pretty strong Iraqi element, and each time the militia has gotten out of hand, that element has been able to deal with it, on some occasions with some help from a special forces team that is in that area and that can provide some close air support as required.
Ambassador Crocker, what is your degree of confidence that the Maliki government will begin to do the things that we've been asking them to do for a long time?
My level of confidence is under control. We saw in the course of the summer a serious effort on the part of Prime Minister Maliki and other leaders to try to work out some of the national level issues among them, and that led to a communique on the 26th of August in which they announced agreement in principle on 2 pieces of legislation, de-Baathification reform and provincial powers, committed themselves to convening regularly to deal with issues of strategic significance to the nation, and also announced agreement on issues relating to detainees and armed groups. These are modest achievements, but I nonetheless find them somewhat encouraging as an indication of certainly the intention of the leaders of the 3 main communities to work together and their ability to produce some results.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the witnesses for their service.